this. All right, let's watch this. Can you trust your media?
This episode and others like it are made possible by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help me produce more content like this and get early access to every new video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. Can you trust the media? It's a common question, and one that's popping up more and more often in our increasingly polarized world. Over the years, we've seen numerous examples of news networks twisting the truth to fit a certain narrative, or spreading outright lies in order to gain public support for military initiatives. Today, with more news at our fingertips than ever before, it's important to really consider the question: can you trust the media? So, in this episode, that's what we're going to discuss. Renowned academic and social critic Noam Chomsky once said, "He who controls the media controls the minds of the public."
Wow, sounds a lot like anti-Semitism to me, sweaty. Noam Chomsky is canceled. What an anti-Semite.
Manufacturing Consent, his work explaining the failure of capitalism and corporate control of the US, he focuses on highlighting the role.
Edward Herman is the most underappreciated, underrated, and non-mentioned academic in the world
that the media has played for decades, and continues to play, in manipulating public opinion for the benefit of private interests. In today's climate, it's not hard to find people who denounce the mainstream media as a pile of lies and
Manufacturing consent sounds like some weird PUA anti-consent bullshit. It's pretty fucking problematic, to be honest. That's really good. Yeah, because the point of manufacturing consent is actually a how-to on how to do manufacturing consent, and that it's good and a necessity.
Fabrications, but then run to Fox News or other such networks as a reliable source of information, not realizing that, whomever they listen to, all modern news outlets are controlled by a set of interests that have nothing to do with sharing useful, educational, or trustworthy information. Just 21 companies own all.
I mean, this guy's in the media, and HasanAbi is also in the media. This is how new media works. There is no one answer to trusting the media because this isn't monolithic. No, we are described. First of all, many people have asked Noam Chomsky about what he thinks about manufacturing consent in the age of the internet. Matt Taibbi being one of the famous people that have asked this question and tried to get a good answer to write about. But we are still within this framework of manufacturing consent because we are outside of the mainstream media, and that's precisely why there are still limitations to what we can say and what we can't say. But ultimately, because we are outside of the framework of legitimate media entities, we can get away with saying whatever the fuck we want, and even speaking out against mainstream media talking points or against American imperialism, where there's bipartisan consensus within mainstream media. However, that comes along with being vilified, or in a lot of instances just considered illegitimate.
All the media outlets in the US, 5 of which own all the major news networks of the country. You might remember from one of my earlier videos that these big 5 are Comcast, Disney, News Corp, National Amusements, and AT&T. This quasi-monopoly allows those who own these companies to feed the nation a twisted version of reality and make people believe whatever they want us to believe. This creates an environment in which only the news that fits the interest of the individuals who own these private companies makes it to the public. This corporate domination of the media goes hand in hand with the corporate domination of the government, and perpetuates a system where absurdly wealthy individuals run the show without ever needing to be elected. There's a common opinion among many Americans that the media is entirely the domain of liberal elites. That is not the case. Far from being controlled by coastal liberals trying to paint all conservatives as racist and homophobic, the mainstream media is controlled by the same overarching interest groups as supposedly alternative media like Fox and Voice of America. All modern news sources.
Anyone who thinks Fox is alternative media is also a fucking delusional moron. Like, they are literally the most mainstream of the mainstream. They are literally the most successful news operation in the fucking country, okay? And the same conservative voices also own Sinclair Broadcasting, which is like 70% of the TV market to begin with. It's fucking nuts.
Have become a single, unified front aimed at manufacturing consent and steering the conversation away from real news and towards pointless aesthetic disagreements. Those who own the networks may want to appear to espouse different views, but at the end of the day, they're all staunchly capitalist and benefit from the same tax cuts as every other rich business mogul. But since they have to maintain a veneer of objectivity, we get news networks that fight over petty cultural squabbles while quietly agreeing on all the big stuff. The news you see today has very little to do with informing you about what is going on around the world in a clear and objective manner. Today's news outlets only focus on 2 things: pandering to the biases of their audience and indirectly promoting the financial agendas of specific industries. For most of its existence, the American media has painted our way of life as the best way of life, whether for its economic opportunity for right-leaning media or standards of democracy and fairness for left-leaning media. We have been fed the lie that America is the #1 country in the world and indoctrinated to believe it. The only thing America can truly claim the #1 spot for is wasting money on the military. And how do we justify that? Just turn on the news. For decades, the US media has created news stories to glorify intervention in foreign countries, often lying outright about certain events.
You know, good stuff. Good stuff that the New York Times engaged in. You know, things that you hear even now from the American government's position against Iran, the saber rattling that you hear from the American government about how, like, we need to deal with Iran, and that's why it's a justification for why we need to keep selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, because Iran threatens Saudi Arabia's, who is our most valuable ally, our foreign partner in the Middle East, outside of Israel. You know, they need to maintain their regional sovereignty. Everything is like Iran bad, and that's why we need to fucking keep doing engagements, military engagements in the region.
Tiny number of terror attacks on American soil are covered from all angles. But the vast and ongoing devastation wrought in the Middle East by the US military and our murderous sanctions barely get a mention. And the media doesn't only avoid mentioning US interventions, it also avoids those of its friends and allies. In the 1970s, when Indonesia invaded East Timor and occupied neutral territory, killing thousands, the media said nothing. Indonesia was a US ally. Today, the conflict in Yemen has been labeled as one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, and it's been going on for 6 years. Innocent people are dying in atrocious conditions every single day. Have you seen any media coverage of this lately? Has Fox, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, or any...
No, because it's our guns that are actually doing it. So obviously, when our guns are doing it, like, it's actually a good thing. We need to keep giving Saudi Arabia more of those guns and bombs, especially the gay bombs at Raytheon, because, you know, they are LGBT friendly. So according to the Human Rights Watch, they are the most LGBT friendly company of 2019. So, you know, sorry, sweaties in Yemen, you are going to be hit with bombs.
of the others said anything about the plight of the Yemeni people lately? No. Why is that? Because the Saudi army is largely responsible for the murders. And who arms the Saudi army? The United States. Once again, corporate interest and the country's bottom line supersede the right to accurate information. No matter which way these outlets lean, they are all guilty of filtering the information we receive to suit the interest of...
Our guns with the people doing the killing don't get enough to blame, treated as POC, they have no agency. I find that to be rather idiotic, because no, the people that are fucking doing it should get a fuckload of blame. I criticize the Saudi government's actions all the goddamn time, just like I criticize the American government's actions all the goddamn time. It is so psychotic. Also, you're talking about Saudi soldiers now. Talk about what you can control, which is not giving them arms, and also actually, you know, telling them, stop fucking murdering people. This is something that we could do. We could do that, but we are not.
Of their owners. Private ownership of the media has turned information into a commodity, not a right. And commodities have a value, which can be turned into profit. The name of the game in American media is not to inform, engage, and empower the world, as CNN so eloquently puts it, but to sell, manipulate, and turn a profit for shareholders. Like anything, information is a good that can be sold to the highest bidder, and corporations are willing to pay a lot of money to get the information they want in front of your eyes. It doesn't matter if you think all immigrants are criminals, or if you think Trump should be impeached 3 or 4 more times. There's a network out there which has some information to sell you, and it...
So here's the thing. This is a good question. How's the media controlling everything if we're talking about it right now? Okay, so Chomsky talks about this. This is one of the few issues where, like, this is one of the few areas where Noam Chomsky and Slavoj Žižek agree. Okay, it's 2 different forms of control. In the neoliberal Western capitalist world, the media creates a presence or creates an idea of freedom, but that is confined within a box of acceptable opinions, okay? And that box further and further shifts to the right because that benefits corporations, and that benefits the American manufacturers, gun manufacturers, small arms and weapons manufacturers in general. So that comfortable box of ideas that you can have within mainstream media shifts further and further to the right and is more and more reactionary. In the Eastern world, where there is a lot of press limitations, there's a lot of control, authoritarian control rather, you understand that that control is enforced and that you are not getting the correct information, or that the press is always going to lie to you because it's the state press, or it's at least controlled by the state, and therefore you have an understanding that you need to be skeptical of the information that you are filtering in. So if you look to like Soviet bloc or Soviet era people who lived in the Soviet era, they will tell you like the government's fucking lying to me. I know the government's fucking lying to me, so I need to figure out the truth on my own. So there's benefits to both, right? I prefer the Western way of going about it. Okay, making it seem like you are actually advocating for freedom, but limiting the control of information or the flow of information to an acceptable confine, an acceptable box of ideas. Why do people keep saying AOC single? Please stop. I don't care. Okay, great. Shut the fuck up. Why do you even know that? What the fuck? Anyway, it's top of the hour every hour. It's time for a 6-second ad break. So I'm gonna run the ad right now. Also, she's not, and you guys are being fucking weirdos. Please stop. Fucking stalker Andes. If you no longer want to see the ads and you want an ad-free broadcasting experience, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do it for $5 or for free by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. You get one free Prime subscription a month. Here's the ad now.
Knows exactly how to do so. Polarization in modern media is not diversity. It is not choice. It is simply a blatant abuse of human nature. We all like to hear things that we agree with. The name for this phenomenon is confirmation bias. If I think socialism is a conspiracy to destroy America, I'll turn on the news channel that agrees with me and reinforces my belief, which frankly is all of them, but Fox tends to use that line most effectively. The American media has mastered the art of pandering to its audience, and will continue to do so indefinitely as long as it helps to turn a profit. It doesn't matter if what they are saying is even remotely close to the truth. To make matters worse, the American obsession with free speech has created a media ecosystem where corporate mouthpieces can say whatever they want, asserting their unalienable right to spew meticulously crafted propaganda into millions of households. Despite the fact that the First Amendment does not apply to news networks, our obsessive fixation on being able to say whatever we want, regardless of truthfulness, has given news anchors an excuse to lie outright. These days, free speech means nothing more than I can say whatever I want and promote it as the truth to whoever is willing to listen to me. This perversion of what free speech really means has removed any and all accountability from the media to base their claims in factual truth. Anyone can now go ahead and say whatever they want on air as long as it generates more revenue to the channel. That's the bottom line. If it brings in more viewers, if it's profitable, it's the truth. The best example of this is the way that panels are constructed to debate topics on air. For decades, human-caused climate change has been established as fact, and over 97% of experts agree it's happening. So why is it that every news panel contains as many experts on the matter who accurately report the evidence of climate change as irrelevant grifters who do not? This is not to offer unbiased news. It is intended to muddy the waters so that people continue to doubt established science. Human-induced climate change does not suit the interest of the hugely powerful oil, gas, automotive, cruise, dairy, and meat lobbies, so they make sure that the media gives as much attention to nonsense as it does to fact. The most damning bit of evidence when it comes to climate change coverage is the fact that Exxon, one of the largest polluters on the planet, was one of the first to conduct extensive studies on the effects of fossil fuel use. Their internal documents reveal that they knew just how bad the problem would become, and instead of working with policymakers to find a solution, they buried their findings and launched a decades-long disinformation campaign to keep the public in the dark. When you see climate debates on TV, be aware that you're watching an ongoing oil and gas lobby crusade to maintain their profits.
That's precisely why the only thing that you heard in the aftermath of Texas, the Texas crisis that occurred because of the ice storms and shit like that, the only thing that you heard was about how windmills were frozen shut even though windmills were not the reason why Texas was having an energy crisis, was experiencing an energy crisis. But that was the oil and gas industry immediately switching the conversation over to something that is silly, and stunlocking the liberal outlets, the supposedly liberal outlets, into constantly talking about that as well. Fucking bullshit.
The expense of the survivability of the planet and the future of our species. Would you find it normal if any time a NASA scientist is interviewed to talk about, say, progress on Mars, there was a flat earther there to contrast views? Of course not. That would be a waste of time and would only serve to dilute the facts presented by the expert in an effort to sow doubt. That's exactly what news networks are for. Not to inform, but to obfuscate. To prolong the profitability of damaging industries as long as possible. To bring in views by making people angry or afraid. We are a long way from what reliable media is supposed to look like. There is no such thing as a trustworthy news channel or honest media outlet. You cannot trust the media. However, that does not mean that everything they say is a waste of time and you should only believe what fits your views. That path only leads to further division and the destruction of trust among the people.
That's why I always talk about what the personal interests might be for individual outlets. Like, there are certain biases that are just always going to remain, right? So you have to recognize those biases whenever you look at the media, whenever you look at a particular outlet and their coverage. Like, state broadcasters oftentimes will have will obfuscate the truth whenever they're talking about their own states, but are usually providing decent coverage when it comes to other states. Like state broadcasters like the BBC are relatively reactionary when it comes to their coverage over whatever the fuck is going on in their own in their own country, but will provide decent coverage to issues that pertain to the United States of America. Al Jazeera is another good example of this. You know what I mean? Hold on a second. Let me just change these fucking settings before moderators and everyone is like yelling at me about deleted messages showing. I don't know why it fucking shows deleted messages. Like, it's so dumb. Okay, where the fuck is it? Okay, motherfucker. I don't think I have deleted messages. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's showing deleted. It shows moderation messages. It doesn't show deleted messages, I don't think. I can't see it. Oh, it is showing them. You're right. Hold on, let me turn it off and then turn it back on. Hopefully it's not fucked. Stop writing deleted message in the chat, bitch. You guys are so fucking... You guys are such babies sometimes, I swear to God. Most predictable... I have the most predictable babies on the entire platform. Like, just knowing what Twitch chat is going to do is like... I just know exactly where Twitch chat is going to go. We are your babies, buddy. You're the reason why we're this way.
What it does mean is that you must recognize that what you're watching and listening to has a corporate agenda, that you are being sold a prepackaged worldview, not provided reliable information. In the world of corporate news outlets, if the information is free, you are the product. As products, we have value to those who finance and manipulate the media. We are pawns for them to use in forwarding their agenda, so long as they can manipulate our views and manufacture our consent. The individuals who own the media are not so foolish as to promote their views in the open. They select the right-thinking personnel, editors, journalists, and CIA wannabes like Anderson Cooper and Tucker Carlson. And they set the priorities of each outlet to create the narrative that will make people agree with whatever it is they want agreed to. Western media is a well-oiled propaganda machine that uses a variety of techniques to manipulate opinion. It is not a news source. Yes, sometimes a news anchor or editor will present the public with a more honest version of events, even if it goes against the narrative of the channel. They usually quit the next day and go work for another corporate network. But that is just part of how a good propaganda machine works. It allows for some dissent every once in a while, but makes sure that enough of its core message floods the airtime so that we get the illusion of diverse and honest coverage while gobbling up the lies we're meant to believe. Why is this neoliberal ideology so dominant in the developed world? Not because it makes good economic or social sense, but because by its very nature it opened up the media to private ownership, which in turn now declares that pure capitalism and neoliberal policy are the only way for society not to collapse into chaos. It's a never-ending cycle. Corrupt policy enabled the corruption of the press, which now enables more corruption of policy, and on and on. Power is held by corporations who steer the state, which then returns more power to corporations, and both use the media to tell a story that preserves the status quo. The modern media is the ideal tool for effectively and subtly spreading ideological messages to the public. All you need is money. And this corporate tool is working as intended, and incredibly efficiently. So efficiently, in fact, that a growing number of people honestly believe that the best way to improve our situation is to oppose the mainstream and liberals. This fabrication has given rise to a completely fake anti-establishment movement run by the elites and fueled by the media.
Okay, so a good point to pause in here and briefly describe something that I was going to talk about is our think tanks that operate exclusively for creating culture war narratives such as this one. The Manhattan Institute for Policy Research is a great example of this, a 501 nonprofit American think tank focused on domestic policy and urban affairs, established in Manhattan in 1977 by Anthony Fisher and William J. Casey. So there are a fuckload of think tanks that we know about, for example, in the United States that operate at the behest of the Koch brothers, that engage in what he was talking about earlier, manufacturing consent, in regards to how green energy initiatives are lame and will turn your children into, they will force feminize your children or whatever the fuck people talk about. But then there's also a more nefarious and more like white glove think tanks that operate on culture war ideas, on the line around culture wars. And a lot of the people that are employed by the Manhattan Institute engage in this sort of culture war bullshit. They got most of their acclaim under Reagan. There were a bunch of highly acclaimed books in the early 1980s that produced the concepts such as supply-side economics and privatization of services to a wider audience. The program director of the Institute in 1981, George Gilder, published Wealth and Poverty, a best-selling book often referred to as the Bible of the Reagan administration. A New York Times reviewer once called it a guide to capitalism, arguing that it offered a creed for capitalism worthy of intelligent people. Like, these are ideas that are antiquated, outdated, concepts that we know are completely bullshit, and yet at the time they were getting acclamation and praise from other mainstream media institutions, and that's precisely what he is talking about here as well. This entire system works alongside one another to make you feel as though there is no other alternative to the way that you exist, and that every other alternative, as a matter of fact, is infinitely more cruel than the one that you are subjected to. Do not think about all the cruelties and all the oppression and struggles that you experience under capitalism. That is a consequence of meritocracy and you not working hard enough. But every other system is entirely dependent. All the deaths and everything that you've ever heard about in other systems is absolutely as a consequence of those systems failing in and of itself. So at the immediate level, you can recognize it for oil and gas, but when it comes to the culture war shit, it's a little bit harder because it's more nefarious and it's more successful at reaching across political boundaries, and that's why you have people like Glenn Greenwald arguing culture war shit and like defending people like Barry Weiss. You know what I mean? An article that she wrote recently, Barry Weiss, ex-New York Times columnist Barry Weiss, who is a big culture war hero, a big culture war soldier who went into unemployment because she claimed that she was getting harassed by other claimed that she was getting harassed by people on Twitter, and that's why she had to leave the New York Times, which, by the way, Glenn Greenwald fucking defended. Is writing about like obscure weirdo fucking private institutions run by liberals in random parts of the fucking country that only 11 people are aware of. You understand? Like, she fucking writes about this shit and turns small issues like this into gigantic problems that apparently the everyday working class members should be aware of and be upset about. And this is precisely what they do. If you focus on dumbass shit that liberals are doing, like, I don't know, teaching people not to do microaggressions or some shit, then if you focus on that, then you forget the reality that there was a $15 minimum wage debate that was supposed to happen, but the Democrats fucking gave up on it, and the Republicans didn't even start talking about it because you know that they are not on board with it at all. This is how it works. You focus on the dumb neoliberal shit that you can pay attention to because it's right there, and it owns the fucking libs, and you can, you know, get leftists on board or progressives on board that are like annoyed with elitist, snobby fucking liberals, and you can certainly get the Republicans on board because they absolutely despise the liberals. That's their entire worldview, and you get them to, you know, you get them on the stupid fucking carrot of chasing the latest and greatest idiotic thing that liberals are doing, and push them away, push their focus away from the actual issues that matter. It's the same shit when people are talking about, you know, whatever columnist is getting harassed or whatever the fuck, or whatever. It's the same issue that you talk about whenever you talk about, like, you know, college professors are getting fired from their jobs. This is crazy. This is madness. Blah, blah, blah. It's all bullshit. Okay? It's all bullshit, back and forth squabbles. And a lot of those squabbles are egged on by those who work in these think tanks, who specifically work to create these sorts of narratives and advance these sorts of narratives, so that you are neutered and your attention is elsewhere. There is no way for you to mobilize. There's no way for you to activate, because in the small moment and small opportunity that you would have to recognize your position in society under a neoliberal capitalist organization of the economy, you spend it with this distraction, because this is much easier for you to create team lines around. You know what I mean? It's a much easier argument to say, this is dumb, I hate this, this is making me mad, than to recognize that your boss is fucking you all the time at the behest of the people who own your corporation that you will never see or never hear about. Yeah, it's simple, it's digestible. Affluent parents terrified of running afoul of the new orthodoxy in their children's private school, organized in secret. The dissidents use pseudonyms. Like who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares about this? School that costs more than $40,000 a year, a school with Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right hand, and Sarah Murdoch, wife of Lachlan and Rupert's daughter-in-law, on its board, is teaching students that capitalism is evil, dude. Like, who cares? This argument, I love this other argument where it's like, people constantly do this thing now where it's like, it's only rich people that hate capitalism. Poor people actually love capitalism, which inherently relies on a negative feeling or a negative association that poor people should have with wealthy people that have been able to, in a lot of circumstances, generate that wealth as a consequence of exploitation. So just flip it on its head and be like, no, poor people actually love capitalism. They love getting fucked in the ass. It's their favorite thing. Non-consensually, of course. Consensual ass fucking is great, I hear. I'm not a big anal guy myself. I don't enjoy it, but, you know. That's besides the point. If college professors were being fined for reprehensible views, Jordan Peterson would not be a U of T professor in the what people think is communist Canada. There is no cancel culture where universities have funding for conservative clubs on campus. Yeah, there's no cancel culture. Universities still churn out a fuckload of reactionary dipshits. For most parents, the demonization of capitalism is the least of it. They say that their children are afraid to speak up in class. Like, what is the demonization of capitalism that they're engaging in? Fucking Harvard Westlake, by the way. I love this idea that, like, Harvard Westlake, that churns out some of the wealthiest, that educates some of the wealthiest people in fucking California, or all around the world, as a matter of fact, is like creating a dedicated group of like anti-capitalist warriors. Like, what are they teaching them? What, that like let me guess, they're teaching them about the many benefits of like Keynesian economics or something. That's what it is. That's the demonization of capitalism. Is like still a capitalist, pro-capitalist, neoclassical form of economics. They're all eager to their stories to be told. They're worried about their reputation. A private school parent born in a communist nation tells me I came to this country escaping the very same fear of retaliation. We need to. Oh God, this is like, anyone that fucking writes about this is disgusting to me. And the reason why they write about this is because like they're talking about a bunch of fucking rich parents at an insanely elitist institution, and like they're making it seem as though this is like actually something that dude in Mississippi should fucking care about way more than the $15 minimum wage increase. Okay, it just frustrates me to no end when people fucking constantly drone on and on and on and on about this sort of shit. It is really, really fucking annoying. And guess what? And shouts out to fucking Squirrel for bringing this to my attention. Guess who fucking liked this article, guys? Guess who, Barry Weiss, the liberal, by the way, guess who liked the article so much that they fucking posted about it? Oh, wow. Who is that? Oh my God. That's the former U.S. Secretary of State and the director of the CIA, Mike motherfucking evangelical Fred Flintstone lookalike Pompeo. The woke ideology is infiltrating both public and private schools across the country. Our children are America's future. We cannot stand by this. Be a pipe hitter. Don't let this crazy into your kids' schools. More from Barry Weiss here. So here's the thing that frustrates me to no end. Mr. I am skeptical of American State Department propaganda, Glenn fucking Greenwald, loves eating this dog shit and constantly talking about this shit when his butt buddy Barry Weiss writes about this sort of dumb shit. For some reason, he cannot recognize that the American government or the State Department or the CIA or all of these dark money funders and think tank operators might actually have a genuine benefit from beefing up the narrative that like woke culture is destroying this fucking country. I don't know. And people that get mad at me for saying like butt buddy when I'm talking about Glenn Greenwald because he's gay probably don't realize that fucking Barry Weiss is a woman. So shut the fuck up. What is the argument that like using butt buddy even when you're referencing a male and a female about a gay person is homophobic? Is that what you're going to say? I'm starting to realize that just about every person who goes on GRE and calls himself a liberal ends up going right wing. Wow. Welcome to the reality that I have been talking about for a very long time now. It's literally, that's always been the case. These people that like run the I'm a centrist liberal, by the way, argument are centrist liberals. Twitch staff with permaban other streamers for saying butt buddy. But they'd let you slide. Wait, what? Why the fuck would they? Since when is butt buddy a negative, has a negative connotation? Just means like people who are friendly with one another. It is literally not a, why am I addressing gray name takes? It's so stupid. Shut the fuck up, idiot. Okay? Yeah, I love that. The butt buddy hill. Not the CIA mouthpiece hill, but the butt buddy hill. This is what people are concerned with. Exactly. No, just that it's a slur term that's homophobic. No, it's not. There's no fucking way. Is butt buddy actually a homophobic term? How is it a homophobic term? It's the same as the F word, though? Oh, really? Is that why you said butt buddy, but you said F word? I guess it's not the same then. If you are literally personally self-censoring one word while simultaneously saying the other word, then it's not the same degree. Chat, literally engaging in this stupid culture war shit that you're talking about while describing the stupid culture war shit? Yes, exactly. Well, it's fun, though. For a lot of idiots, like, it's fun. For a lot of idiots, it's fun to just be like, oh, dude, you're being fucking... I caught you doing a no-no. I know that you are not homophobic, but I caught you doing a no-no. I am going to now run the fucking line and gaslight you into... saying that you are a homophobe. I got you good. Like, shut the fuck up, bitch. I don't give a fuck. Suck my dick. Okay, there you go. I used dick sucking in a negative connotation as well. Therefore, I am furthering my misogynistic and also homophobic agenda here. Yeah, calling someone a kiss ass or an ass kisser or a brown noser is homophobic now. Yeah, anything that involves asses is homophobic. Now I can say, do better, do better, do better. I'm wagging my finger at you. You need to do better immediately. You need to do better. I got you good. No, women do not have asses. I do not care. You are wrong. Women do not have asses. Only men do. Butts are a male-only thing. Butt buddy is a bidet, lol. Is literally a bidet. I can't believe this homophonic bidet exists on the marketplace. We must cancel it right now. Anyway. You just changed my view on butt buddy LMAO. Have you seen the super straight bullshit? No, I haven't. I have no idea what it is. I don't know why I've like literally not seen it. Calling someone an asshole is homophobic too, man. You're shaming someone for liking anuses. So only men can have bubble butts. Whether or not, yeah. Have you seen Steven Crowder, brother? That's what I'm talking about. To be honest, we heard you pause and charge up butt buddy. Please apologize and remove the BB phrase from your vocabulary. So where were we? We were talking about dumbass culture war shit when dumbasses in my chat because they thought it's really super funny to bait me with dumbass culture war shit. Engaged in it. Well, here are some other things that the Manhattan Institute has come up with for those of you who are unfamiliar. Again, Squirrel does a really good job tracking some of this stuff and covering it. Here it is. Let's take a look. Here is a long list of shit that the Manhattan Institute is engaged in, like cultural war. It's set up as the cultural wing of the neoliberal institution apparatus in the 1970s. It has normalized and enacted policies that have led to the deaths of tens, if not hundreds of millions. Updating race IQ pseudoscience via Charles Murray, which helped legitimize the neoliberal deconstruction of the welfare state while providing ideological cover for the making of the prison industrial complex. The new Jim Crow is just one of his accomplishments. You know, because black people and the bell curve and their IQ levels are directly proportional with their likelihood to go to jail. It's not systemic racism. It's because, you know, they're of lower IQ and therefore have genetic predispositions towards crime. That is the argument that you will hear from. The likes of, you know, people who have read Charles Murray, or at the very least, people who want to create an intellectual justification, a pseudo-intellectual justification for why there are certain disproportionate outcomes within the criminal justice system in the United States of America. It can't be centuries of racism. It has to be something else. IQ, and that's what it is. That's the reason why people are fucking. Zay is turf as fuck. What? Oh, fuck are you talking about? You're insanity. No, they're not. What? They're super pro-trans, you fucking psycho. What? Anyway, let's keep going. They are just trying to pronoun trap you. What? You fucking sniped that? Oh, always. Today, we're at the forefront of pushing propaganda against Antifa, Black Lives Matter, SJW, cultural Marxists, and the left more generally, while masquerading it under the guise of sensible, reasonable, centrist, progressive liberalism, classical liberalism, if you will. Coleman Hughes, Heather McDonald, Wesley Yang, Thomas Chatterton, Williams, Thomas Sowell, Dave Rubin, Sweaty, canceled, gay guy, gay Jewish guy, straight Jewish guy, black guy. I don't know. Being kind of racist right now. The Institute's director, Jordan Peterson, Barry Weiss, Andrew Sullivan, name a cancer in public discourse, and they're tied to the Manhattan Institute. And their talking points are all the same. They all feign this edgy classical liberal pose to further the Institute's far-right billionaire-funded agenda, which has remained the same since its founding, to destroy the left in all of its forms by any means necessary. It's not some Reddit group with 5K losers hanging around it. It's not some marginal niche subcultural podcast community. They have literally destroyed tens, if not hundreds of millions of lives with their propaganda, which they're experts at disseminating. You don't typically hear about them. I didn't know much about them until I read the Vaquint book I quoted earlier, which you definitely should read too. Here's a PDF of it. You only see their propagandists constantly popping up in the discourse. So you're thinking, who the fuck is Coleman Hughes guy being invited by Republicans to give statements in front of Congress arguing racism doesn't exist, reparations evil, and welfare should be abolished? Well, he's literally employed by the Manhattan Institute as a contributing editor of City Journal. So this is how it works. You employ people in your think tank that you know will be a good fucking talking head. Let's take a look at the American working class. Hey, again, liberal institution, guys. Liberal institution. Where did Coleman Hughes go? Well, first of all, he works for the 1776 Project. He works for the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research. He writes for Quillette. And, of course, where did he go to college? Oh, he got a Bachelor of Arts from Columbia University. But, hey, guys, these campuses, these college campuses, they're creating homosexual, gender-neutral, neo-Marxist postmodernists, right? Oh, wait, no, the fuck they're not. A lot of these elite institutions are direct lines into motherfucking think tanks where you write idiotic articles about whatever marginalized community that you're supposedly the only important voice from, that literally goes against the pre-established, well-documented plight of said marginalized community. Literally just the easiest way to fucking get checks cut out to your name, unlimited amounts of money. One of the founders of the Institute was Anthony Fisher. You've never heard of his name. That's intentional. The Manhattan Institution is the personification of evil. He's the devil. He's a pivotal figure in creating the neoliberal ideological apparatus. Whenever you see a right-wing or classical liberal hack on TV in some paper who appears well-spoken, he's had a lot of PR training and is pushing an agenda aiming to destroy the left, it is guaranteed that the Manhattan Institute or those other orgs have created them. And unfortunately, there are otherwise well-meaning people who fall for their shtick, who think these people are sincere good faith actors, and then boost them, thereby helping launder the Manhattan Institute's depraved neoliberal anti-left ideology. And there is the Glenn Greenwald being the well-intentioned boomer who's fucking lost his mind to the culture war bullshit. Like, going from the type of dude who used to have like who understood the plight of marginalized communities to the person who literally churns out every fucking anti-SJW shit that like YouTubers are fucking talking about over and over again. Internalizes racial superiority for white people. Discovery Institute Center of Wealth and Poverty. Oh, Jesus Christ. As you can see from the Manhattan Institute guy being boosted there, a lot of the anti-woke derangement that's currently occupying the elite media's class hive mind emanates from the Manhattan Institute. They're all literally following the script. The guy listed on the Manhattan Institute's website, the Manhattan Institute created Charles Murray. They were instrumental in creating the prison industrial complex and destroying welfare. What I find frustrating is that I hardly see anyone ever pointing this vast ideological apparatus that lurks behind all these puppets that are dangled before us and drain our energy and attention with their bullshit. Yes, they should be exposed, ridiculed, argued against. Here's the reason why it doesn't, though. The reason why it doesn't is because it is easier for someone to say, yeah, that's delusional. I like shitting on the liberals as well. I like owning the libs. You know this. It's not a secret that I like owning the libs. So when I see a lib being fucking ridiculous, I like to also fucking make fun of it and say, this is silly. You are being silly. Why are you doing this thing where you, as a white person, have declared yourself the savior of all black people? And now you've decided to engage in an act that is not going to improve black people's material conditions at all, but is an act of self-gratification, where you go and like polish the shoes of a black person as you cry and apologize for slavery. Like, that's not fucking helping anyone, okay? It's just super performative. It's super over the top. It's gross. You still end up otherizing black people, and absolutely zero people think that you are a good white, okay? When you do that. Now, that stuff is ridiculous. And when people do that, I laugh at that as well. I make fun of that as well, okay? But that is not the norm, okay? People aren't doing that all the fucking time. And anyone who tries to make it seem as though this is like the norm and this is how liberal, this is the future that liberals want, well, they're feeding into the white supremacist fears and biases that have been coded into you as an American white since fucking birth when you do shit like that, okay? People are engaging in performance, virtual signaling and advocacy and like fake allyship with over-the-top, overcorrective acts of kindness or whatever the fuck. And then on the other side, you have people who are like, well, what the fuck? They want me, they want me to be less than a black. Like, you know what I mean? And people that feel that way, all of a sudden, feel legitimized in their point of view that, like, you know, the liberal worldview is putting black people over white people and not just creating a base level of material equality. Like you are now. And then there are, of course, people with straight up one brain cell, like a brain that has been ironed for the longest time, like pulled out like this, like to make sure that there is not a crevice, a single fucking crevice in their brains, that their thinking, their capacity to think is just completely obliterated, that come in here and go, you do that too. No, I don't. No, I fucking don't. I'm literally describing how I don't do that, and I'm criticizing people who do that. And it's impossible for you to comprehend it because your brain is literally fucking smooth. Anyway. You said doo-doo. Okay, let's keep going. But as long as the institutional network that creates these schools remains firmly in place, taking one of them down, like cutting off a hydra's head, will only give rise to others to replace it. More focus has to be given on exposing and critiquing this odious network. If you're a socialist Marxist, they should be par for the course. You look at the material conditions underlying ideological movements, you engage in institutional and structural analysis, and then formulate strategies on the basis at taking aim at these systems. Without this vast ideological network that disseminates its propaganda through an entire body politic via all the major institutions of society, the media, political, cultural, economic, judicial, the socialist left would be the actual dominant hegemonic force in society. The reason Cornel West described Obama as he does in the clip below is because this network was created in the 1970s and massively pushed the society in the right, most dramatically in the United States, but most other countries too, the neoliberal revolution. Anyway. The whole point is these institutions are so powerful because they have basically an endless amount of funds. They're very successful at what they do, and they can constantly get blank checks written out to them by billionaires and millionaires who recognize their importance. Because if you are fighting amongst yourselves nonstop over petty culture war bullshit, instead of saying, yeah, that's ridiculous, who gives a fuck, move on, focus on issues that matter, then you're constantly going to engage in endless gridlock and never actually organize and fight against the powers that be, those who actually do control your oppression and do have power to change it. Anyway. Bro, stop stunning and start reacting. Shut the fuck up, bitch. This was
The
a good
global
stun
rise
lock.
in popularity of crooked politicians like Donald Trump, Jair Bolsonaro, and Nigel Farage has been facilitated by the lies of supposedly alternative, mostly right-wing media. These outlets, financed by the wealthy elite, have worked hard at selling the lie that by voting for these people, we are supporting someone like us.
Yeah, that's the greatest part about this, is that, like, you literally vote for some of the most elitist dipshits who don't even hide their fucking interest in advocating for the needs and the better interests of corporations of the wealthy. And that's how you automatically come to the conclusion that, like, oh, he's saying Mexicans are rapists, so he must be on my side. You know, brother, hell yeah. He says Mexicans are rapists. He tells it like it is. Meanwhile, he's literally just fucking, he is pocket watching like a motherfucker. He is taking away the remaining fucking shred, the crumb that you had to yourself, you dumb fucks.
Man of the people, someone who understands. That is a complete lie. There is nothing like us about these people. They are part of the elite. They've simply decided to try a new approach.
Like, motherfuckers on crutches on probably disability payments are running around advocating for Donald Trump. You know what I mean? When, like, his Republican Party is responsible for you not getting the appropriate amount of disability payments that you deserve.
There is nothing like us about these people.
If it were up to them, you would be in a shredder, motherfucker. You would literally be Soylent Green, okay? They would literally melt you into biomatter.
They are part of the elite. They've simply decided to try a new approach to further divide us and strengthen their hold and that of their ultra-wealthy friends on society. Nowhere is there a better example of this than on Fox News, where news anchor Tucker Carlson continues to rail against the establishment, blame immigrants, and claim to be just like his viewers. His message is simple and fits perfectly with his audience.
Funny that you can agree with this video, then uncritically accept mass media messaging on coronavirus? Yeah, because I'm not a fucking idiot, dude. That's why, okay? Because I'm not a fucking idiot. And it's not uncritical mass media messaging. It's like saying the CDC is lying about the additional deaths that people have fucking experienced, and that the mainstream media is also lying about the scientific consensus on fucking global warming. Like, I hope that was bait, you dumb fuck. And you're not literally a 4-month subscriber who unironically thinks that, like, coronavirus is fake or some shit. Like, go watch Steven Crowder. Holy shit, dude. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. I don't know if this is like, yeah, anything that the media, like even the fucking Second Thought video actually talked about how, you know, not everything that you hear in the media is a lie. That's not what this means.
Audience's bias. They agree wholeheartedly and reinforce their views every day, thinking that they're being provided real information by someone just like them. Tucker Carlson gets paid $10 million a year to spout venomous lies on TV. He rails against the elites while being the heir to a frozen food fortune built on the back of abusive immigrant labor. He is not a man of the people. He sits firmly at the table of the elites and uses populist rhetoric to manipulate his audience and make sure that the status quo is preserved so that his giant bank account continues to fatten. The bottom line is this. The media is...
A lot of media was not willing to admit that COVID wasn't created in a lab? What do you mean? Oh, you mean like, yeah, because it was State Department propaganda. Originally, the State Department literally fucking let out a feeler that maybe this COVID shit was staged and it was inside of a Chinese lab. They let this out. There was immediately studies conducted on this, or as studies are often conducted on new viral strains and whatnot. And they turned around and said it's untrue, right? But some in the media still continued with that narrative. Where did that narrative develop? Not in fucking media. It developed in the State Department.
It's one giant propaganda machine fueled by the wealthy for the wealthy, all with the support of a corporate-controlled state. News outlets are doing an incredible job of keeping the population divided and at odds with each other over frivolous nonsense so that no meaningful change can ever take place and the status quo that makes the rich richer is maintained. Our media fits perfectly into a framework of neoliberal hegemony, and not a word that comes out of their mouths deviates from that mission. The best thing we can do is to recognize this fact and attempt to understand others and their biases, as well as recognizing our own. If we truly want to overcome the mind control operation of the elites, then we need to stop listening to them and start listening to each other. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this kind of content is
This is Second Thought. The channel is Second Thought. He's great. He's a friend of the show who makes these videos. They're great.